Hello, my name is Noah David, and this is my moral decision making project. For my presentation, I decided to look over Dilemma 4, which consisted of two brothers, Carl and Bob, who had recently caused trouble and needed to flee town as soon as possible. Despite them needing to escape, they desperately needed money, which resulted them in stealing cash. While Carl broke into a store to steal $1,000, Bob lied to an old man by saying he was sick and needed money for an operation. Using this information, I decided to answer if Carl's or Bob's crime was worse and why it was worse. For this slide, we will be searching out the facts, which is the first part of the stop process evaluation. For the moral object, we can see that Carl and Bob stole money from the store and a retired old man. For the reason or intention why they did it is because they desperately needed money before they fled the town altogether. Lastly, we're going to go over the circumstances, which include who was involved with the choice, where and when the choice happened, and how the choice was executed. For who, I put the brothers, Carl and Bob, and the two victims, the store and the retired old man. Although the where isn't really specified, I put down the town they were planning to flee and the store that Carl broke into. Additionally, the when isn't really specified, but I said that this choice occurred after they caused trouble and before they fled town. And finally, for the how, the brothers stole by breaking into a store and lying to an old retired man. In this next slide, we're going to be thinking about the alternatives and consequences, which is the second part of the stop process evaluation. And in the alternatives category, instead of stealing, they could have left town without any money, asked any relatives or close friends for any extra resources and money, or even owned up to their mistakes and came clean to the trouble they caused before instead of entering this whole panic of fleeing the town as soon as they can. And in the second category, the consequences or the effects of their stealing, they caused even more trouble to the town, especially to the old man, and brought even more attention to themselves. But despite them taking $2,000 from them, they now had $2,000 for themselves. And this could benefit them by allowing them to buy resources, living somewhere new, and overall starting a new life in a new place. And for the third step in the stop process evaluation, we're going to be looking at how others can play a role in this whole choice. And in this first category, we're going to be looking at how this choice might affect others. For example, the store might start having trouble paying their own employees, buying products to put on shelves, and have trouble operating without those funds. Furthermore, the retired old man might be unable to buy himself his own resources to live, provide for his own family, and his trust of others will diminish due to Bob's poor choice. And lastly, although it might not affect them directly, town citizens might suffer because if the store is unable to put food on shelves and put product on shelves, they won't give people the chance to have access to common goods needed to survive and thrive. And furthermore, this supports the claim that controversial choices affect everyone around you and not just yourself. And for the second category, we're going to be looking at others who they could have consulted and asked for guidance before they made that choice. The first person they could have asked is someone who was actually stolen before, to truly see the physical and mental consequences to committing a theft crime. The second person they could have asked is someone who's been a victim to stealing, to see how bad their choices could affect someone and how bad theft can set back a person. The last person they could have talked to is a priest or church figure, to see how bad theft could bring them away from God and to seek spiritual help. And for the last part in the stop process evaluation, we will be going over prayer and its great importance to the whole process. First, they should have talked and listened to God. During their conversation, they should have talked about the trouble they caused in the past and why they chose to do it. And they also should have referred to now and described why they considered stealing in the first place. Furthermore, the two brothers should have asked for guidance to do what is right and the strength to deny all selfishness. And finally, after talking to God, confessing their sins, and telling their truths, they should have used this feeling of relief and used it as guidance to make the right choices. Next, they should have reconsidered their source of moral strength and asked themselves if their choices positively affected those around them or just themselves. For example, they should have looked back at the trouble they caused and questioned the source of those actions. And using this reevaluation, they should have repented for their past sins and directed all choices to benefit the good of others and God's creation. And finally, if the brothers truly followed the reliable stop process, God's love would have been outpoured. If they followed this process, not only would they have avoided hurting others and stealing, but they also would have repented for their past sins and built themselves up to a better future to benefit God's creation and those all around them. In conclusion, I believe that Bob's theft of an old man was worse due to the fact that he not only stole from him, but also lied and broke the promise of the retired old man. And although Carl's theft may have affected more people, the store has the ability to make back more money quicker than the old man can, and it did affect more people, but it affected them on a much smaller scale. And $1,000 will probably have a much more serious effect on an individual person, especially a retired person, than an organization that makes more money on a daily basis. Additionally, although we may never know the brothers' true intentions and morals behind their actions, after using the stop process method, we can assume that the brothers' intentions were selfish and immoral from the way it affected others and how the thefts were executed with lies and force. However, despite this judgment on the brothers' actions, we can never truly judge the brothers' true character. This is mainly because God is the only being that can truly judge someone's character, as He is the only one who knows their morals and intentions behind their choices. In closing, after reviewing the situation, we can see that the stop process method is an important factor whenever we make controversial decisions in life and can be the final element in choosing between right and wrong.